Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with Shirim in the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom on the Ijarabah, Tafshin Pei Hey, where Be'ezras Hashem the words will be direct and to the point and significant and awakening. But we're following up with where we left off, which is the condition of Adam Arishon after the Chet of Eitz Hadas, where the human being now descends down into the territory of effort, the place that was allocated really for the work of the animals prior to the degradation of existence through the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. And as a result of that cataclysm and that expulsion from Gan Eden, we are tasked with effort. We are tasked with a feeling of being chased, of a time orientation, of a constriction, of an urgency, of a lack of time, where it's human kitzirin, it's the hanhaga of zer anpin, as opposed to the original hanhaga of arach anpin and patience and the awareness that everything has its time and everything has its own place. In the place of zer anpin, we descend down into a place of urgency where we feel that we are being chased and that there is a responsibility upon us to fix something, and without rushing, then it's not going to be fixed. Now, we said obviously that this degradation, like anything in existence, especially whenever we're learning in the writings of the Ramchal, this is something we have to fundamentally hold together. But it's the secret that every degradation is for the sake of an ascent. Every stage of concealment is for the sake of a furthering of a revelation that could not take shape without the prior level of concealment. So the descent away from Arach Anpin, from that Hanhaga of Keser, from the Hanhaga of Yichud, into the Hanhaga Hamishpat, into the Hanhaga of Zer Anpin, in spite of the fact that it appears to be a profound degradation from calmness into concealment, from elongation of time without limitation to the anxiety of time, which is built upon limitation. Nevertheless, there's always going to be a doubled revelation that's going to come out to reveal that even this lower level serves as the fundamental place in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu's true power is going to be revealed. Meaning to say that the tachlis of the Yerida from Arach Anpin into Zar Anpin is not because we can't handle Arach Anpin, but it's to be revealing the power of Arach Anpin within Zar Anpin to reveal Arichas Yamim, the elongation of days within the collapsed nature of time, where we can find redemption within exile itself, which is the secret of the Idra Rabbah. So Rashbi is continuing to describe the condition of what it's like to be in this place where Rashbi decides that Eis Lasos La Hashem Hifru Sarasecha, things are out of control. There's a tohu unleashed upon the world, and if we don't get it right, we're not going to be able to do it, which gives each and every person permission to throw themselves in even further into the avodah, even if they're not deserving of it, especially if they're not deserving of it. Eis Lasos La Hashem Hifru Sarasecha, when others are meifir their Torah, the responsibility of revealing the innermost point of how to function in exile. So then it's upon us to reveal the pathways and break open those doors that will reveal exit plans out of concealment into redemption. And so when it's these shortened days, human zi'irin, so there's another condition. There's the shortness of days, and Zakta Hiligazayar Kadosh, Umara Dechayva Dachik. The debt collector is giving pressure. There's a pressure coming about from the one who is coming to collect the debt. There's a sense of responsibility that I owe something, that I am responsible to pay back a certain debt, but it is prior to my ability to pay back that debt. So it is a imposition of anxiety, and an anxiety that there is something outside of me that has a rightful claim to my spiritual capacity, and it has a rightful claim against the fact that, listen, you haven't been able to repay the debt. Nevertheless, the Zohar HaKadosh is coming to open up a way of having to learn to live with that sense of the debt collector coming to collect the debt prior to the ability to pay off the debt. And this sense of being chased and the responsibility of paying off a debt, in spite of the fact that one is not yet ready to pay off the debt, is going to be the condition of these human zi'irin, of these short days. Hamalacha meruba v'hazman ketzera. There's an immense amount to do. There's a great debt, and the time is short. Time is of the essence. Time is human zi'irin. The kruza koyi b'chol yuma, and there's a voice that cries out each and every day. So let's see, according to Rabbeinu Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzata, what it means, umara dachayva dachik, that the debt collector is placing pressure. Zak Dehel Ramchal, and we're learning from the Adir BaMarom, the Rav Shariki edition from the Maton Ramchal, Daf Mem Daled. I'm going to explain the matter very clearly for you. Again, Rabbeinu Ramchal is not even expecting us to see on our own that he's explaining the matter very clearly. He's conveying to us that he's about to convey the matter very clearly so that we open up our eyes and our ears. Ve'afarish l'cha ata heitev ha'inyan. Mari d'choiva dachik. What does it mean that the debt collector is imparting a certain pressure, a certain concern over the fact that the debt is due? V'tavin bazeh sodos gedolim be'inyan hanhagas hagalus. And when understanding this nature and the condition of reality with the debt collector waiting to collect the debt, we'll come to understand the certain condition of exile. Ki Mishnah Amru, unlike the Zohar Kadosh, which says that the Mara Dechoiva is dachik, that the debt collector is being dochik, is creating the pressure. The Mishnah in Avos Beis Tasvav has a different implication, which is Bal Habayis dochik. The Balabayas, the owner of the house, is dochik. There's a certain pressure being imposed by the master of the house, which is a very different orientation than the debt collector. Debt collector is a threat from the outside trying to break in. The master of the house is the safety that exists on the inside. So we see, as the Ramchal is going to point out, a double nature of dechika, a double nature of pressure, and an imposition and a pushing forward, in spite of the fact that the territory that we're pushing in on is not yet ripe for that experience. But nevertheless, we don't stop pushing. That secret of the dechika desha'a, that being pushed into a place that theoretically I wouldn't enter into other than having been pushed in there, applies by the mar dechoiva that is dachik from the side of concealment, as well as the balabayas, which is dochik from the side of revelation. So let's see, says Rabbeinu Ramchal. V'kan here in the Zohar Kadosh, it doesn't say balabayas dochik, ela mare dechoiva dachik, the master of responsibility, the baldavar, the samach mem, concealment, the side of concealment in this world, the notion of things falling apart if we don't get it right, even though that whole notion is still within the framework of HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanting there to be such a notion. So there's a difference. V'ha'emes ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu balabayis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the balabayis of the house. Ach Meir Dechava hu samach mem. And the Mar Dechoiva, the debt collector, is the samach mem, is the Sitra Achra, is the Yitzhahar, is the Malach HaMavos, is all of the concern. Now, obviously, the debt collector lives in the house, and the house is existence, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the master of existence, meaning to say that the debt collector doesn't work outside of the house or outside of the king. The debt collector works for the king, but there's two different forms in which the king reveals himself and in which the debt collector reveals himself, which is the Sitra Achra. Meaning that dog on the leash that the Ramchal teaches us so much about, because he understands that it's fundamentally the tool in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be megalazayin on the yichud, coming about by way of concealment. When it comes to the Shechina Kadosha, when it comes to the experience of cultivating spirituality from this worldliness, Gemara in Brachos Vavam Nebe says, Igra dekula duchka, that the true gift of all effort that a person is going to put into trying to come and learn Torah and hear and grasp spirituality is going to be the dechiku that we pushed ourselves in. The pressure, the sense that we had to force ourselves. There was a sense of urgency. Mara dechoiva duchka. There's a dechiku desha'a. There's pushing myself into a place farther than my capacity. And so we have these three elements of the duchka. We have the master of the house, who is the balabayas, that's dochik. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Mara dechoiva, which is the Sitra Achra, the Samach Mem, which is dochik. And we also see that the entire schar of the Shechina is the duchka. Kihi yosheves ben beis hadechakim halalu. The Shechina, Klal Yisrael, Nishmas Yisrael, existence, experience, rest wedged between these two forms of dechika, these two forms of pressure, these two forms of the imposition of an urgency that comes about from a place beyond me, so that I'm not aware of the reason of the urgency, but I am liable to live within the shade of that urgency. So there's an urgency, but I don't know where the urgency is coming from, and it expresses itself by way of a dechika desha'a. There's a certain rushness, there's a certain urgency. When I remember that I haven't done something yet, there's a sense of, oh my gosh, it's almost too late. So the reason that we experience that feeling in exile is because exile, the Shechina HaKadosh, is wedged between these two experiences of dechiku, the dechiku of the balabayas, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushing things along, and the dechiku of the Sitra Achra pushing things along from the other side. Kihi yosheves bein beis hadechakim halalu. Shechina sits resting between these two forms of dechiku, of urgency. And in the future, the only expression of concealment in this world where the Shechina experiences concealment is only because it's the preparatory stage of building the vessels to receive a light that is going to correspond to these forms of concealment. So in the process of making the vessels to receive the light of La'asid Lavo, there's a doubled sense of dechiku, of pressure. Hine Kasav, the Pasuk says, Lo tihiyeh lo kenoisa. The Pasuk says that when you lend somebody money, When you lend somebody money, you should not be like a debt collector to them. You should not be pushing them, hovering over them, imposing a certain form of terror-induced sense of responsibility. V'soid ha'inyan hu mashakosov, and the secret of the inyan is as follows. Ve'eved loiva le'ish malva. And really, the loiva, the borrower, becomes like an eved to the lender. That really the relationship between lender and borrower, between the lova who's borrowing from the malva, in spite of the fact that it's just a relationship between a borrower and a giver, nevertheless, there's a certain servitude inherent within the nature of borrowing. That if I'm borrowing, I'm already considered as if I'm a slave to the person that I'm borrowing from. V'zeki b'maisa ha'halva'a nekasher haloive liyos mamish ke'eved el hamalva. Because the lumdus of halva'a, the nature of the lending process is that through the act of borrowing, the borrower now becomes like an actual status of a servant towards the lender, an indentured servant. The sod zeh, and the secret of this, ki lo asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu shum davar lamata she'einenu lefi seder ha'ma'oros ha'elyonim litikun lahem. Anything that exists below, any lumdus that exists below, any relationship between a borrower and a lender, for example, that exists below also exists above in the higher worlds, because the higher worlds are reflecting themselves in the lower worlds, and the lower worlds are reflective of the higher world. It's not that the same thing is taking place at every level, but every level is the same, and everything is taking place in accordance to the relative position of that level. So it's always taking place in different ways in the same moment at the same point. And so whatever is taking place down here below in the secret of the malva and the lova, where the lova becomes mamish like an eved to the malva, is also taking place above. V'hu sham ha'ashirim v'ha'aniyim. And there's an existence in this world, and there's an existence above, called those who have wealth and those who are impoverished, the wealthy and the impoverished, which develops the responsibility and this need for a relationship of a lender and a borrower. Just as below there are those who are wealthy and those who don't have wealth, so too above there's wealth and there's that which doesn't have wealth. Wealth belongs to Yesod, wealth belongs to Zer Anpin, wealth belongs to expression, to Hashpa'a, and deficiency and impoverishment, and Leis Lemagameklum, and Anius, and Dalus, and Dalim Ukurashim belongs to Malchus. That the Yesod is the Malva and Malchus is the Lova. That the Yesod is always the Ashir, it's being Mashpia Lamata, the Oiris Elyonim, and the Makabel is the Ani, who's Oimid ala Pesach, and is a Tefillah Liani Kiyatov, Lifnei Hashem Yishboich Zicho. Just as below there's wealth and there's impoverishment, so too above there's hashpa'ah and ashirus and receptivity in the secret of anios. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted there to be a semblance of free will where the individual makes themselves kaviyachol through the act of gevura, where we become the vehicle that reveals the inherent unity that has always been revealed within us, which is the secret of Rosh Hashanah, and why HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to be mamluch nishmas Yisrael, so that we can bring about the Malchus Hashem Yisparach through our own theoretical volition, in the secret of the Bechira, in the secret of Zer Anpin, in the secret of Avodah, in the secret of waking the heart up, in the secret of being a Ben Adam who has to be woken up by the shofar. All of this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create this Giloi through Bechira itself, because there's no greater unity than the person coming in contact with the unity that exists within themselves, as we saw in the name of the Leshem Shabbat V'Chaloma. That's why Hashem created a world like this, why Tzimtzum and Revelation have to be fundamentally aligned in order for there to be a semblance of a playing field where I can still try and volitionally earn through my own processing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's revelation, which is always present. Which means Hine hiniach shehamalchus tzricha lekabel ha'oiris min acherim v'tzricha la'avoda. That Malchus, Shchinta Kadisha, this world, Olam HaAsiya, Malchus Malchus, this worldly experience, Bria Yitzira and Asiya, the Malchus of Atzilus that is descending down into concealment to develop the playing space of our reality, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has left Malchus deficient. And we spoke so much about how this entire book is just what happens when, in case of emergency, break glass. We can't be Mashal Malchus, so we have to bring Bina all the way down to Malchus. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu enabled Malchus to remain imperfect. It only came out with one Nakuda. It came out with the Nakuda of Keser of Malchus, which we've already discussed in the name of the Rebbe, was really the Keser. It was really the Malchus of the Keser of Malchus, which is the Emuna in the Mesiras Nefesh that we have for Emuna. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed Malchus empty, revealed Malchus in a state of deficiency and impoverishment, and it needs to receive from others in order to perform its avodah. It needs to receive that influx of spiritual vitality from above, and it can't reveal the inherent fullness that exists within her because there's a secret of the tzimtzum in that place of Malchus Shabamalchus. V'zekvar pirashtav lamala. We already explained this above. Vayesoid meir aleh, but the light of above of Zer Anpin is mashpia down to Malchus. That's the secret of the Ashiras. V'nikra Ashir. Hanoisen tzedakah la'ani. The act of tzedakah is where Malchus receives from Yesoid, which is the expression of Zer Anpin. And that Ashiras is given over as tzedakah to the Ani, to Malchus. The whole Ashir Lamata, and every Ashir, and every wealthy individual, every grier down here in this world who offers to others, operates in a madrega of Yesoid. It's a Goimel Dalim. It's Gemilas Chasadim, the Oz Gimel, the Gmul, the Oilam HaGmul. The secret of Yesoid, which is Biyom Hi Gamal Yitzchak, of expressing down below in the secret of Chashmal, of the Mila that's Megala Zayin, and the Nakuda that's being drawn down below in order to provide sustenance to those who are in need. That's the secret of Mashiach ben Yosef. That's the secret of the Yesoid, which is the Ashir. Then there's the Ani HaMakabel Mimenim B'Madregas HaMalchus. That's Daven Malka Mashiach. That's receiving impoverished, waiting to receive. Ke'ani Oimer al Pesach V'ani Tefillah. Every Ashir comes from the Darga, or every person who has money embodies the Darga of Yesod, and every person who is receiving embodies the Darga of Emunah and Malchus. And like we said in the beginning, the Lechem Oini of Malchus was not nitkenet yet, so we had to be mezachik the taryag mitzvos, which really would have been the avoid of the animals, like we saw in the beginning. And now we have to be mamshich the taryag mitzvos into the taryag evarim to be mashlim at all. And it's not contained, it's not fixed yet, so there's still hashba coming down. The ikr tachlis, the ikr giloy of the real shlemus is going to be the tzedakah that takes place down here below, as the Hilga Balatanya reveals at the end of Igros Kodesh that the fundamental expression of all things in the end of the day is giving money to Aniyei Eretz Yisrael, of being mashpia down to Malchus of Malchus. And all wealth, all transference of wealth, whether it be by way of malva or loiva, or tzedakah, is going to be an expression of this balance between hashpah of Yesoid and the Kabbalah of Malchus. When a person is functioning in the expression of the Yesoid, Nemar by Ashir Barashim Yimshol, the Eved Loivel Ishmalve, as long as Hanhaga operates in accordance with the 6 days of the week, the Hanhaga of Yisod, the Hanhaga of Hashpa'ah, the Hanhaga of Chesed Gvur Tvares Netzach Yisod. So in that place, the Hashpa'ah makes it seem like Malchus is devoid and deficient and impoverished, and therefore the balance of power is going to be that the Ashir is Barashim Nimshol, that the wealthy individual is going to have a certain element of power and control over the Rashim, over those who are in need. And the pasuk says the Eved Loive Ishmalva, and that the Loive, the person who needs to borrow money, is going to be considered as if they're an Eved to the Ishmalva. That's the Anhaga where Yisod is in charge. Besod v'hu yimshol bach, after the Chet of Adam Arishon and Chava, so it became that the masculine would have power or control in this level of hashpah over and above the nukva, even though we know the secret of Eishes Chayla Taras Baila and the secret of Malchus Kol Olam. So in the secondary status of being exiled from Gan Eden, what it appears is that the Yesoid and the Hashpah and the Ashir has a higher darga and a higher control over the lova or the borrower, or the impoverished individual, or Malchus. This is what we found when it comes to this matter. Shah Malchus, that the secret of Malchus, he aspeklaya deloy nura. And right now it's a cloudy lens. And Avada, a cloudy lens, is going to reveal the highest level of lo yada, but right now it appears that it's deficient and it's devoid, and we need to draw down hashpa'ah from Zer Anpin, from the place of Zer Anpin. Impoverishment expresses itself in according to 2 levels. There's a certain ani who needs so much tzedakah that they're not able to pay it back. It's mamish ma'isa of tzedakah. And then there's another form of tzedakah where a person is in a down and out state where they need to borrow money, but the hope and the intentionality is that they'll be able to repay that money in the future. And both of these are expressions of malchus, pnimius and chitzonius malchus. It depends on the gradations of receptivity and reception and impoverishment, but benkach malchus is always receiving from Zer Anpin. It's always receiving the 2 forms of hashpah, either the tzedakah that won't be paid back or the halva'ah that will be paid back eventually. Both are needed in terms of the reception from Zer Anpin. And ben kach, they remain because there's a certain sense of need. Even the loive who plans on paying back, Malchus, even in that position, still is going to be considered an eved. There's an avdus. The amnan, nevertheless, haloive yored lamadregos matat shu ha'eved. This distinction between the Malchus that is receiving mamish, mamish, mamish tzedakah without any intentionality of paying it back, that's the Indian of Malchus. But there's also the element of Matat, of Metatron, who represents and occupies the world of Olam HaYetzira, a secondary level, the Ateres HaYesod, the inner quality of Malchus. And in that place, it's a loiva. It's not receiving tzedakah, it's borrowing money. It's borrowing with the intentionality of paying back. And that's the secret of the Eved. That's the Hanhaga of Matat, which occupies and represents the Hanhaga of the 6 days of the week, where we're not the Aniyim Mamish of Shabbos, where we have absolutely nothing of our own, but we're still operating in the semblance where we have something of our own, even though we don't have it right now. So we're going to borrow now until we can reveal that we have it to pay back. That's the secret of Metatron. The world of Atzilus is a free person. That's where the Ashiris is. Beside Kol Yisrael b'nei Malachim, that all of Klal Yisrael are the children of Zer Anpin and Nukva of Olam HaAtzilus, and we all find a root in the world of Atzilus. But when we fall down into a place where Malchus is so concealed in the worlds of separation, Malchus of Atzilus goes down into the worlds of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, in the secret of Metatron, which occupies the worlds of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya. The Mem represents itself in the world of Bria. The Ron represents itself in the world of Asiya, and the Tuf, the Tes, represents itself in the world of Yitzira, which is Rabbi Meir Rimoin Matzah, Tocho Achol, and Baro Zarak. That Rabbi Meir, when he wanted to be Mevar, this issue of Acher, who saw Metatron and didn't understand the Anaga of Metatron during the week, and the fact that there can be a secret of a loiva who's borrowing but might not be able to pay back. So he saw Rimon Matzah, the Reish and the Ron, the Reish and the Mem Vav Nun, the Mem and the Reish Vav Nun of Rimon, which is the Mem in the world of Bria and the Ron in the world of Asiya. Tocho Achol, he ate the inner interiority, which is the Tes and the Tes of Olam HaYetzir, which is the Gematria of Chai, which is the 3 Vavin of the Chut HaShedra and the Yesod that's Mamshech from Lamala to Lamata, to be Megala Zayin, how specifically in the world of concealment Hashem is revealing himself. And so he uncovered the innermost quality of Metatron to realize that it's just the Hachana to be Megala True Malchus. And so there's people who fall down into this place of becoming the Darga of Matat, the Darga of an Eved, which you have to borrow, you have to be Malva. You have to be a loive, which is what the Zohar Kadosh is describing. And that's the element of Sheif Shanim Ya'avod, that a person has to work 6 years in Eved Ivri. And a person has to put in all of the effort, like a love, where we're borrowing time and borrowing effort. And this is the secret of the effort of Metatron, who has to work and put in effort in the 6 days of the week, which is the exile. And someone who's operating in this place of Avdus, which is all of us, the lights are concealed from us, the lights are closed off. To the degree that at this point I don't even have the consciousness of doing mitzvahs. I'm just trying to make a day's keep. I'm trying to borrow for the day. And if the malva, the person who is giving, the hashpa, the world of Atzilus, is creating this sense of, oh my goodness, I'm responsible, and I can't pay it back yet. Instead of moving upwards and realizing that I'm not being chased, that sense of being chased pushes me further and further into the sense of being chased. And therefore the pasuk has to warn the malva, lo tia lo kenoisa. Don't impose the debt upon that person, because the person who is in need of a debt is a person who has fallen into that place of matat, into that place of the avoida of an eved, where we feel that we have to work and toil for the hashpa of Zer Anpin to come down. And in that place, we have a tendency and a liability of falling deeper and deeper into worlds of concealment. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu warns and commands each and every malva not to treat the individual as if they are in need of repaying it yet, because it's just going to keep them stuck. And we'll go weiter. And again, all of this is the Ramchal setting us up to understand these 3 words in the Zohar Kadosh of Rabbi Shimon, Umar D'Chayvet Dachik. V'nei Yisrael chatu harbe v'hayu chayavim chas v'shalom kliya. in accordance with the Hanhaga of Bechira and Mishpat and Zer Anpin, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to conceal himself in order to ensure that reality unfolds in accordance with its own self-development out of itself to reveal the Yichud from within the period itself, which is Megalazan and the Iker Koyach of the Yichud. So Klal Yisrael, in accordance with the limited framework in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal our functioning in the world of exile, so we've messed up already many times over, and in truth, we should be deserving of destruction. Not, God forbid, in a real way, but at least in the theatrical way of it. So ma'asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to do? Lo yivim misamach mem harasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu borrows time from samach mem, borrows time from concealment, borrows time. What does it mean, borrows time from Samach Mem? Samach Mem isn't the opposite of Geula. Samach Mem is saying, Rebbeinu Shalom, let's force the Geula now. They can't do it on their own. The experiment failed. Let's force Geula and start again. And Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying, no. Klal Yisrael can do it. Klal Yisrael can reveal the Geula. Klal Yisrael themselves can reveal the Geula, which is the Tachlis Abriya. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants Klal Yisrael themselves to reveal the Geula. So Kadosh Baruch Hu wants the Samach Mem to be patient and doesn't want to reveal or Ein Sof Mamish to undo everything. And so he says to the Samach Mem, be patient. And I'm going to borrow time from you, and I'm going to wait and enable the patience necessary for Klal Yisrael to do their thing. I knew Ratza Shiarech Lo Azman. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the time to be extended for Klal Yisrael. V'zakev hachoyv alav b'malva. And he takes on the role. He takes on the choyv. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes on the choyv of the person that he's borrowing from. He takes on the chov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes on the chov to elongate the time necessary for us to prove that we believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now the deal is going to be that if they don't return in tshuva, then you'll be able to destroy them later. But this borrowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for the sake of Klal Yisrael to extend the period of time that we'll have to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu from down below itself, which is the Tachlis Abriya, instead of rushing to reveal it from the top down, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals that even the Samach Mem is part and parcel of light, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu starts the whole process over. This halva was not without intensity. It comes with a sense of ribis. It comes with a sense of usury. It comes with a sense of manipulation. It comes with the sense that we're so low already that at this point, whatever it takes in order for us to have just a little bit more time, od yoter zman, a little bit more time to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu, it's going to come with ribis, and we'll accept that. V'zeu atam sharibis muter bagoy. This is the reason that by the nations of the world, there's an element of ribis. Kikachi anhaga im asitra achra and a samach mem arasha, we allow. The Samach Mem is able to have ribis. And what's the ribis? What's the ribis that the Samach Mem takes when HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol borrows more time for Klal Yisrael to be able to prove the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from within our own volitional choices, and so as not to force HaKadosh Baruch Hu to undo the entire secret of reality and reveal the infinite light without our efforts? It's the shalva. The ribis is the calmness and the goodness that belongs to the nations of the world. When we look at the nations of the world and we realize they don't have this effort, they don't have this struggle, they don't have this suffering. This is why it's very important, says Rabbeinu Ramchal, that the Jewish people should not be jealous or try and mimic the calmness of the nations of the world, or to follow in the ways that awaken joy within them. Why? The joy that they're experiencing is what enables us to maintain our existence. We don't want to take from that joy. That joy is why the Samach Mem is enabling Klal Yisrael to continue to have the time for Bechira, because that is the ribis that the Samach Mem expected from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So anytime we're jealous of it, we're saying that they shouldn't have it, and in truth, that takes away the kiyum of Yisrael. The fact that Klal Yisrael operates in the way that it operates, and the nations of the world operate in the way that they operate, is because the way nations of the world operating in the way that they operate, in the upside down, topsy-turvy, seemingly ridiculous and unfair nature of Klal Yisrael's suffering, where it should be really the opposite, that is in and of itself what gives kiyum to Klal Yisrael, so that we can extend the time period given to us by the Sitra Achra in the deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol, so as to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from with our own volition, which will reveal the true Tainug and the true Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the secret of Dira B'Tachtoinim. V'yirich Zman ad sheyachzru b'tshuva. And there's an extension of time that is given to us by the pleasures that the nations of the world experience, so that we'll have time to return in tshuva. And this is what the pasuk comes to say: Tachas Eved ki imloch. That there's going to be a time where an Eved is going to be king, where a slave is going to be a king, and that slave shu asitra achra shemitga'e b'kolcho. The sitra achra is really an Eved, but it's It's acting like a king because it is beautifying itself with the strength given to it, that ribis that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given to it, which is the pleasure given to everything other than Kedusha, and the calmness that things other than Kedusha seem to have, and the difficulty that Kedusha seems to have. In truth, that's going to be its downfall. V'sharim holchim ka'avadim. And the officers, the princes, Klal Yisrael, are walking around like avadim. Shena'asim avadim lefanev mipnei hava azos, because we're like an eved to the samach mem, where we feel an urgency, where we feel chased in this world by our desires, as if we're about to fall and as if we're weak and we're not strong enough. That's the chiku desha, that's the halva, that's what we feel as a result of being borrowers and avadim to the sitra achra. But again, all of this is simply to extend the time period that we will be able to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu through our own efforts. V'hu b'chinas matat soidchol v'galus. This is the secret of the anhag of matat. This is the secret of the teva. This is the secret of the concealment that yet finds themselves in this world, in the secret of chol and golus. But nevertheless, even though the pasuk says for us that we can't impose on our brothers or sisters in order to receive the payback, and there's no halva ba'yid, and there's no ribis ba'yid, but samach mem is always it's causing a person an insanity. Each and every one of us walks around with this insane sense that we owe such a heavy debt to the sitra achra, and that if we stop for even a second to take a deep breath, we're going to be swallowed up by the concealment. That is just the marad dachayv dachik. That is the imposition. That is the threatening stance that the Sitra Achra has on us, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a deal with it, Kavyachol, so that we have the time necessary, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives space to existence so that we can uncover the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from within our own choosing itself, from within the concealment itself. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to extend the deal. To ensure the elongation of the time, even if it means giving the simcha and all of the hoilulus to the sitra achra, v'chule, and the dechika that they cause to nishmas Yisrael, and the anxiety that's imposed on us by all of these things. The goyim you read the v'sisum tamid, and because the balam bias is, because the mara dechoiv is dachik, so we feel that we're going deeper and deeper and deeper because I'm terrified, and therefore I go deeper into the debt orientation, the debtedness, and the feeling that I can't do it, I can't dig myself out of it. So much of our concealment, of being able to pull ourselves out of concealment and face Hashem, is that we feel that we're in debt to Hashem, and I'm in debt of three things, let's say. So if I pull myself out of one, I'm still in debt of two things, and I can't pull myself out of the debt of two things. So because I feel that I'm in debt, I'll remain in debt, and I'll come to be in debt for four things, five things, six things, until I can lose koyach and I can lose hope. Chas v'shalom. A person is always in a state of dolchik, of dechika deliba, of not being okay, of being chased. The goyim, you read the Vasisum Tamid, and as a result of that, we're creating more and more stuckness, more and more closeness. And this is the cause of the symptoms of the breakdowns of self and the struggles and the concealment, because the more we feel that we're behind the eight ball, the more we dig ourselves down deeper and deeper, feeling we'll never be able to repay the debt. And this is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was saying, that right now the first step is going to fix this element of Mara D'Chayv Dachik, that there's no Mara D'Chayv Dachik. We can't operate in this perspective. We can't stay stuck in this perspective of deadness to concealment. Because in truth, this exile that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is waking up out of and saying enough is enough, and ad emas Yosef alma koi ad chad samcha, how long is it going to sit in an imbalanced way? Mara d'chayva, that the humans irin inun and mara d'chayva dachik, and so it's enough, says Rashbi. I'm not going to live in that place of mara d'chayva dachik anymore. How? Chamish Nashlaninu. So what's the Eitzah? What's the Eitzah that Ramchal is saying that Rabbi Shimon is coming to be revealing? Because any issue that Rabbi Shimon was identifying, he was also being metaken. So all along we've been talking about the Marid Dachik. This is the lender who's causing us issues. But like we said in the beginning, the lender lives in the bias. The lender exists in existence, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the balabayas of existence. And therefore, the real source of the Dechiku is not from the Marid Dachoive, the debt collector who lives in the house, but rather it's from the balabayas that is Dochik, as the Mishnah in Avos says. And the only way to be mamtik, the sense of mar dachik, that urgency and that sense of, oh my gosh, I can't do it, I'm late, 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 and I'm never going to make it in the face of the mar dachik, we have to live with that sense, but we have to elevate that sense back up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that there's a dachika d'sha al yidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not because there's not enough time, but there's so much to do. It's going to be a growth by way of strength rather than by way of an insane sense of protection by way of weakness. Ach b'mishnah shaninu balabayas doichik, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the balabayas. The ha'inyan, and the matter is as follows. Kikivan shah samach mem harasha ein aroitz l'kabel of old Torah. Because the samach mem, because that level of concealment doesn't want to allow the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to take place through the Torah, through the tzimtzumim, and it wants to force HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reveal that Klal Yisrael can't do it through the Torah, God forbid, and it wants to force HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reveal the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu without the Torah, God forbid, as if we can't find our way through the world of Bechira. Because the Samach Mem wants to be the Marad Chayv the Dachik, in a Kain Holchem Imo Hakol B'derech Acher. Everything in life, all concealment follows. All concealment follows. There's evil in the world, there's concealment in the world, and our job is to remove the concealment from the world. Ella HaKadosh Baruch Hu Melavale Gam Kinsman. But nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lends time to the Sitra Achra as well. The joke is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu borrows time from the Sitra Achra so that Klal Yisrael can follow through with our avodah. But in truth, what's really taking place in the innermost chamber is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is lending time to the Sitra Achra because the Sitra Achra knows that it's only a worker for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Mamela, the Sitra Achra has no koach of its own, but rather it is caught up and contained within the Bal Habayis. The Bal Habayis is Malavale Gamkeinsman. That's why there's concealment in the world. That's why there's evil in the world. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pushing on the darkness as well. That it shouldn't express itself in a brazen way. But we know that and therefore it only has to be by way of a chutzpah de kedusha that will be able to overcome this inyan. In truth, the Chikud Sha'ah from the Mara D'Choiva and the Sitra Achra is reflective and symptomatic of and rooted in the doichik that we feel and that the world and existence feels from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that there's a significance waiting to be revealed. And in truth, the doichek that's really being expressed is the doichek of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Balabayas doichek, which expresses itself in Malchus. That Malchus seems to be feeling the dechikud d'sha'ah of the loiva, which is the Mar D'Choiva d'Dachik. But in truth, the Mar D'Choiva d'Dachik, which is the Sitra Achra, is coming from the place of the Balabayas doichek, which is light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's pushing Geula along Bi'itachi Shena. And in truth, in spite of the fact that it appears that Malchus is feeling all of the pain of the Mar D'Choiva d'Dachik, the negative form of that concealment and urgency, nevertheless, all of this dechiku that comes from the place of the balabayas doichek, the heliga form of doichek, the highest level of doichek, of pushing ourselves inward into that makom ha'arun einam and amida, into the innermost point of the yechida shebenefesh, which has no spatial orientation whatsoever because it's a dechika, the da, it's a tiny dot, it's a dechiku, the dechiku, the dechiku. It's dak shabadak. This innermost point is what the Malchus is feeling. The dechika of the Balabayas, not the dechika of the Mara D'Choiva. And all of the urgency that we feel and the anxiety that we feel can actually be elevated back up to the urgency and the anxiety that we feel by way of Ma'al Yusuf coming to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the secret of Igra Dekula Duchka, that the reward of all of it, is ultimately the dechiku that we put ourselves into. Why? Because that dechiku, that pressure, that urgency is not coming from the Mara D'Choiva D'Dachik. Person has to overcome those tendencies and those thoughts and those educational patterns. But the dechiku comes from the highest place of dechiku, which is the Balabayas doichik, that innermost sense of there's so much to do. There's so much possibility, there's so much Torah, there's so much tefillah, there's so many moments that represent an individualized and singular expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light and vitality throughout existence, and the secret of Akva Abi in every moment. There's so much to do. That's the dechiku of the Balabayas. How could it be that Malchus herself, which is responsible now to the Mara Dechiva, where we feel that we're really receiving and that we're on borrowed time and that really our spirituality is weak and our inequities are strong and we always feel meek in our capacity to raise our face because we're ashamed of the burdens of what we owe. But in truth, says the Heilige Ramchal, Malchus is really feeling the dechiku desha'a of the balabayas. Because in accordance with the situm, the concealment that is concealed right now in existence, where Malchus feels that it's the highest point of the Tachtonim, where the Malchus of Atzilus goes down into the world of Bria and it's Lanhaga of Metat, it feels that that's Goila and Golus, Aval Kain Yihya La Rivach V'Or Gadol. But in the future, in accordance with the concealment, is going to be the illumination and the growth of light that is going to be unimaginable to any other level that had not gone through this level. So the secret of Mara D'Chevet Dachik is to understand what Mara D'Chevet Dachik means, the concealment of that, and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu sustains Klal Yisrael by borrowing time from concealment that just wants to unleash unity upon the world without the ability of Klal Yisrael going through the Bechira. But then, the most significant point is then next coming to understand that the true sharish of the Dechiku and the true sharish of that anxiety and the true sharish of that imposition of urgency is coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is perpetually being doichik us to move closer and closer to Geula in each and every second, Be'ezras Hashem.